This is Lilian, welcoming you to the 1832nd edition of the Enfield Talking Newspaper, Dateline the 17th of November 2011. The readers this week are Joan, Rod and myself, Lilian, with Cassandra and Colin on the controls. Local stories include Council clash after bid for free school is turned down, legal challenge for Chase Farm, and there will be no library closures. And I have two special news items first to read. The first one, on Tuesday the 15th of November, there was a very successful dance at the Civic Centre organised by Sylvia Chapman. It was really well supported by the groups for the blind in Enfield, along with family members, carers and friends. Pat, Diane and Audrey, representing Talking Newspaper, really enjoyed the opportunity to talk to listeners who have our tape. It was good that the mayor was able to call in after a very busy day and relax, joining in the dancing. Tequila Sunrise provided the music, and they managed to encourage large numbers to take the dance floor. The raffle was fantastic, and we must thank all the businesses, organizations, and individuals who donated the prizes. Above all, we must thank Sylvia and her family, especially her grandchildren, and all her loyal supporters who were there in force to help make the evening such a success. Well done, Sylvia. And the next one is, Dear friends, this is a message from Philip Dawson, our chairman. ETN has been selected as one of 3 charities being supported by Waitrose in Enfield Town during November. After making purchases at the Palace Gardens branch, customers are given a token which they can deposit in a box near the entrance. The branch will distribute £1,000 at the end of November, in proportion to the number of tokens each charity has received. Please support ETN if you can, and ask your friends and relatives to do so. The more tokens in the ETN box, the bigger the share of the vital £1,000 we will receive. Thank you for your support. And now over to Joan, who will read the first item of news.
Enfield Council is preparing to launch a judicial review of the decision to downgrade Chase Farm Hospital. Councillors were told that legal proceedings have begun against Health Secretary Andrew Lansley's decision to strip the North Enfield Hospital of its maternity and A&E departments. Councillor Doug Taylor, leader of the council, confirmed on Tuesday, November the 8th, the council had written to Mr. Lansley about the issue, but said he was legally prevented from revealing the contents of that letter. Councillor Taylor said, the Secretary of State must take full responsibility for this blinkered decision. We have written to Andrew Lansley and various NHS bodies setting out our willingness to seek a judicial review of this decision if our requirements are not met. However, the power remains in his hands. Unfortunately, if he fails to see sense, it will be the people of Enfield, not him, who suffer. It is understood Mr. Lansley has 14 days to reply, and if the council is not satisfied with the response, it will apply to the High Court for judicial review. The move, if approved, will challenge the downgrade decision made in September and is likely to put the changes to hospital services in Barnet, Enfield and Haringey on hold until the court process has run its course. The council launched a judicial review in 2009 against the original decision to downgrade the hospital in the Ridgeway. but the challenge was thrown out by a judge and criticised for inexcusable delays in lodging it. Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows warned that the judicial review may not be the right option. He said, "At the moment, money is short everywhere, and the burden on the council is greater than last time it went to judicial review. With a public health service in Enfield starved of £750,000 in health trust cuts, there is a case that money for the judicial review could go towards dealing with public health issues in our borough."
Conservative councillors have slammed the Labour-led Enfield Council for missing the opportunity of turning Southgate Town Hall into a free school. John Kay, the Tories' education spokesman, tore into opponents at last week's full council meeting, accusing them of sitting on their hands instead of giving them the go-ahead for a new free school to be set up in the borough. This is the story of 18 months of time wasting, 18 months of this administration sitting on their hands hoping that free schools will go away, all because their ideology is against the whole idea, he said. Mr. Kay hit out at the council's decision to turn down the application to turn the former town hall into a free school. With an opportunity missed at Southgate Town Hall and enormous pressure on school places throughout the borough and the rest of North London, our officers need to be free to attract potential groups to set up schools in this borough in the same way and with the same determination as we're trying to encourage business to the area. His attack on Labour's education policy was greeted by vocal support from fellow Tory councillors, but the Labour benches were quick to dismiss Mr. Kay's criticisms. Doug Taylor, the leader of the council, argued it would have been completely impractical to turn the old town hall into a school because the building sits on a major road intersection that would have posed considerable danger to children who would have gone there. Mr. Taylor defended the council's policy, insisting that establishing any more free schools would result in a fragmenting existing provision. Mr. Taylor's Labour colleague, Rohini Simbodayal, was equally adamant, saying, "Schools can only improve with a focus on fostering excellence in teaching, and that is what Labour has always fought to achieve."
No libraries in the borough will close, despite huge budget cuts. The councillor in charge of them has pledged. Councillor Bambos Charalambus, Cabinet Member for Culture, replied to a question posed at last Wednesday's Enfield Council meeting, saying there would be no closures despite 20% cuts to the service this year. More than 1,500 people responded to a consultation conducted in September on the future of the borough's libraries. Councillor Charalambus said, "We would like to see libraries better equipped and providing a 21st century service for all. It is therefore my intention to propose that, unlike many other London boroughs, we retain all our libraries and there will be no library closures." Users of Enfield Town Library in Church Street, which reopened in March last year after an 18 months refurbishment, were glad to hear that no buildings would close. Lynn Richardson, 72, said, "I know most people think it's old-fashioned, but I still like coming and getting a book to read each week." Sixth form student Megan Culfer said, "Loads of us come in after school and chat, and people do their homework there as well." Speculation began in March that Ordnance Road, Bullsmore and Enfield Highway libraries had been earmarked for closure after the Labour-run council's finance chief. Councillor Andrew Stafford said the council needed to look at value for money. Enfield North MP Nick Dubois handed in a petition signed by more than 400 people to Enfield Council over the summer as part of his Hands Off Our Libraries campaign. A cut of £1.5 million to the library's budget has been pencilled in over the next 4 years. Councillor Cheryl Ambush said that could be absorbed by making better use of the libraries or by passing the cuts on to other areas of the budget. Redundancy warnings were handed to 17 members of staff in July. A full review of the consultation is due in December.
Residents lined the streets of Enfield to remember the borough's fallen war heroes on Sunday. The bright November day saw hundreds of people take part in events to mark Remembrance Sunday. More than 500 people attended the Enfield town service, which was almost ruined after vandals targeted the memorial on Chase Green last week. Brendan Farrell, chairman of Enfield's British Legion, said Sunday's service was one of the best in years. He told the Advertiser, "It went off really well. It was a fantastic parade. We had 4 bands and members of the Air, Police and Sea Cadets took part, as well as the Guides, the Scouts and Boys Brigade. There were also services of remembrance at Broomfield War Memorial in Palmer's Green and at the memorial in 4th Street, Edmonton." Now here's a comment in the Advertiser about a new memorial which is a powerful symbol. War memorials in our towns seem to have always been there, their presence acknowledged once a year when wreaths of poppies draw attention to their roll call of lives lost. But their very familiarity can make them seem removed and distant. The wars they commemorate were so long ago, and new generations see the old monuments as nothing more than a blank canvas for graffiti paint or rich pickings for scrap metal. But the Council's plans to design a new monument to remember all the lives lost in battle since World War I should stop people short. In fact, a new memorial could be the best defense against the thoughtless vandalism of thieves and the casual neglect we've all become guilty of.
The captain of Enfield Town says he can't wait to play Spurs at the club's new ground on Wednesday night. Mark Kirby said he was looking forward to leading the team out against Premier League opposition at the formal opening of the Queen Elizabeth Stadium in Donkey Lane. The 2,500 capacity ground is the new home of the club after a 3-year £6 million refurbishment project with Enfield Council. The players marked their first fixture there in style by beating Harefield United 2-1 in the Middlesex Senior Cup last Wednesday. Mr. Kirby said, "As a player and captain, I can't wait to play week in, week out at the new ground. The club and fans have worked so hard creating a place we can call home, and it looks fantastic. The game against Spurs is a real celebration of the hard work and the long hours everyone has put in to making it possible. It will be interesting to see what kind of team they put out, but everyone at the club is looking forward to a big turnout and a fun but competitive game." Tottenham have promised to take the game seriously, with technical coordinator Tim Sherwood saying he would use the game to prepare for upcoming Europa League fixtures. For Mr. Kirby, who joined the club from nearby Hendon in 2009, the match is the culmination of years of hard work. He added, "It will be good for our younger players to get a feel for big crowds and games like this. I just hope we put on a good spectacle for the people who have worked tirelessly for this to happen." The ground has fallen into disrepair until the council and club joined forces in 2008 to build upgraded stands, a new running track and a new football pitch. Tickets will be available on the night for £10, with concessions at £5.
A boy from Enfield celebrated an extra special birthday on Friday after he turned 11 on the 11th day of the 11th month of 2011. Brandon Camp of Linwood Crescent, Enfield, said he was really excited about having his 11th birthday on such a memorable date. His mum, Liza Hurrell, told the Advertiser, "We only realised that this would be such a special birthday about 6 months ago. It wasn't something we had thought about years in advance." I think Brandon was very excited about it. His birthday always has some significance because it is on Armistice Day. It always makes him feel slightly special. My dad had a plaque made for him, so he would always remember it. Brandon celebrated his birthday with a sleepover for friends and then had a family party on Sunday. Brandon did not have much time to celebrate during the day, as he was in Enfield town carrying out junior citizenship tasks with classmates from Keys Meadow Primary School in Tysoe Avenue, Enfield. He said, "I was out on a school trip during the day, but in the evening I had some of my friends round, and we played on my Xbox and on the WII. It was really nice to get the plaque for my granddad, and it means I will never forget the day." Brandon is one of a select group of children who turned 11 on November the 11th, 2011, and among those he shares his birthday with are Hollywood stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Demi Moore.
Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows has called a public meeting to address residents' concerns about trees being planted by a train company at Grange Park and Winchmore Hill stations. There was public outcry earlier in the year when Network Rail felled hundreds of metres of mature woodland along the embankment of the train tracks. Up to 400 residents turned out for a meeting in the summer to express their anger that the trees had been removed without public consultation. Network Rail said the trees were felled because they had caused the land to dry up, and as a consequence of the effect it had on the ground around the rail tracks, there was a risk of a derailment. Train company bosses agreed to replant trees, but some residents have raised concerns about the type and number of trees that are being replanted. Representatives from Network Rail are set to attend the meeting from 8 p.m. on December the 1st at Grange Park Methodist Church in Old Park Ridings, Winchmore Hill. Mr. Burrows said, "The last meeting was packed with residents complaining about the way Network Rail ignored the local community. This next meeting will allow the community to see whether lessons have been learned. I have been liaising with Network Rail Chief Executive David Higgins to ensure that his representatives will be able to clarify what future replanting works will be taking place on the Grange Park and Winchmore Hill embankments and provide future reassurances for the future." And there is a way of contacting with this line, small small letters all the way, mary.mcdonald@nlnews.co.uk.
The hunt to find our next stars starts next week. The Christmas Factor, backed by the Enfield Independent, is back for the second consecutive year at Edmonton Green Shopping Centre. It means people of all ages can show off their talents, from young stars to older crooners. Manager Roger Allen said the success of last year's event spurred him on to make the 2011 search for a star bigger and better. He said, "Last year was absolutely brilliant. We had people coming here who hadn't seen the advertising and signed up and entered the competition on the spot. We could have 200 or 300 taking part, so it's obvious there is talent in Edmonton, and we want to grab hold of it. The first heat takes place on Thursday, November 24th, while the second raft of hopefuls will take to the specially erected stage on Saturday, December the 3rd. Like their ITV counterparts, Mr. Allen, his operations assistant Dominic Durham, and 2 special guests will judge each act and will not be afraid to give them a put-down worthy of Simon Cowell. Mr. Allen said, "There was some last year that made people smile. Let's put it like that. We are looking for people with character and charisma. The 2 winners were staggering. They made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up." It is hoped the talent search, which culminates in a grand final on Saturday, December the 10th, will provide a welcome boost to traders. Ali Gamjin, who runs the Olympic bag store in the South Mall, said, "It is a very good thing. It definitely brings more people in here." The Enfield Independent has joined Blue Ink and Enfield Council in supporting the Christmas Factor, which will be staged by the Centre's management, St Mauden, in the middle of the main concourse. The winners of each heat and the eventual champions, who will each pick up a £500 prize, will be announced on the Enfield Independent's website and on the shopping centre's Facebook page. To enter, sign up on the day or go to www.enfieldindependent.co.uk for an application form.
I have Howard Medwell's column. He heads it, Sir Jimmy, the celebrity knight in shining armour. For once, nobody can blame the media for covering the death, or rather the life, of Sir Jimmy Savile as a feel-good story. Much about his career even makes a miserable so-and-so like me feel good. The weekly unpaid shift as a porter at his local hospital, the 80%, some say 90% of his earnings handed over to charity, the innumerable acts of kindness and consideration to dying or disabled people. Most of the thousands who queued around the block to view Jimmy's golden coffin were not there to show respect for his right-wing political views or his dodgy beginnings as a backstreet club owner. So Jimmy was simply someone who ticked the boxes as a working-class hero of our times. As my mum would have said, he came from nothing. He helped those less fortunate. He didn't have to. We could argue that as a DJ and television personality in the 1960s, 1970s and 1980s, Sir Jimmy was part of the cultural process which led to today's frenzied levels of celebrity worship. And yet, what with his hairstyle, his gold tracksuits and his mad patter, he always seemed, at least partly, to be taking the mickey out of it all. One certainly couldn't imagine him sitting in among the deadly serious, po-faced judges on the X Factor. Few now believe that humanity will ever manage to build a new society, one based on cooperation rather than individual greed. The best we can hope for is that among all the bankers, hedge fund managers and celebrities who make themselves fabulously rich at our expense, we may have the luck to meet a secret millionaire when we need one, preferably one as generous and public-spirited as Sir Jimmy Savile. But don't hold your breath.
Charity chiefs are calling on residents and businesses to lend support to families who live close to home. Dee Aina, the chief executive of Enfield Parents and Children, wants people in the borough to help local charities instead of huge national organizations. She said funding for EPC always falls short of her ambitions for the charity. We have got our funding secured for the next 3 years, but we will always need more for individual projects, she said. for it is now 100 times more difficult to get funding than it was a few years ago. But at this time, the demand from families is increasing because funding for everything is being cut. One of the ideas we are trying to promote is local people supporting local families. People are aware of all the big national charities that support families across the country, but there are families around the corner from you who need help. Martin Shepherd, the charity's fundraising and marketing officer, added, "We really want local businesses to help us fund an anti-bullying course, for example, or pay for a family who have never gone on holiday and then make it possible for them to go away on a trip. They could sponsor an event, or they could come here and volunteer with us. We're not looking for huge amounts of money. It could just be family days out, trips to museums." The charity was founded in 1996 and started with only 2 members of staff. Now it has 14, as well as 40 volunteers. Dee started off as a service user back when the charity was in its infancy. The organization supported her and her son, who has special needs. She became a volunteer and was appointed the chief executive in 2000. She explained, "When it started, it was just one service, the Parent Partnership Service, which supports parents, giving them information and advice. But it soon became clear that there were other issues that needed to be addressed. Now, the organization runs a whole gamut of services, classes for fathers, anti-bullying courses, parenting classes, and the list goes on. And tomorrow, Dee and her team will be celebrating the charity's anniversary at their Montague Road headquarters. It is an opportunity for families to come and celebrate with us," said Martin. "Edmonton MP Andy Love will be doing a presentation, and we will be announcing the results of our children's art competition. Young volunteers will be honored at the event. There will be a big raffle. We have been cold calling loads of businesses for contributions." Despite all the celebrations, Dee warned that many families are still struggling, particularly in today's harsh economic climate. Enfield is the 11th highest local authority for childhood poverty in the country, and it is still increasing, she said. Many parents really struggle financially just to put food on in their children's mouths and clothes on their back.
We have reached the end of side 1 for this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side 2.